Don't be afraid.
Ethic, or they just did what they loved. And
there's magic.
mm-hmm.
There's magic that happens.
And a lot of it that's what, cheese is century-old essential food. It's like yeast in bread.
Hi everyone, I'm Mike Koch from Firefly Farms, and I am super proud to be becoming president of the ACS, following in the very large high heels of...
I don't have high heels on, but yes.
Yes, well, I'm going to change that. Of Lynn Stray from Point Reyes.
Yes, so I am Lynn Stray from Point Reyes Farmstead Cheese Company, and I am on the board of the American Cheese Society with Mike, and we are sitting here today at the day 2 of our in-person conference in Portland, Oregon.
Right before Meet the Cheesemaker.
And we were just saying how great.
Yeah.
It's a huge success. It's a community.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's been such a relief because the community has wanted to come back to conference. Everyone has asked about conference, and I'm so proud of the way the educational sessions have come off. The marketing has looked. The staff has run everything flawlessly. Super proud.
Yeah, so am I. So am I. Everybody feels it.
And people are so hungry to have conversations and talk about business and look at one another in the eyes and hug, and it's been wonderful.
Yeah, it's been like a cheesy love fest.
Yeah, it has been a cheesy love fest. Yeah, for sure. Cheese Camp is back.
Yes.
And I think the ability that American cheesemakers have to color outside of the lines and break from, the really rigid European traditions of cheesemaking, which I love, right? We love European cheeses. There's nothing better than a beautiful Gruyere, Parmigiano Reggiano, but they are very fixed in tradition, and in the States and the Americas generally, we get to experiment. We get to be wacky. We get to say, well, what if I, put a little bit of geotrichum with this wash rind, and what about this? And there's magic. Mm-hmm. There's magic that happens.
And a lot of it too is we talk about sense of place and what is indigenous to our area. And so I think that American cheesemakers, while they're trying to be original, they're looking to their backyard and what flavors or herbs. We use Bailey's because they're in California. I mean, things like that really make it their own.
Yeah. Well, and they commit to, there's so much in the American cheese community that is committing to their community, wherever it is. So this cheese camp, this love that you feel, every single one of the cheesemakers takes this back in some smaller form to their own place. Mm-hmm. And they're creating jobs, and they're making markets for milk and helping farmers survive, and they're participating in chambers of commerce. And
I don't think that people, when you talk about underrated, I don't think people think about cheesemakers, because it starts with a dairy, right? Yeah. We've got to get a milk source, that it really adds to our economy.
Yeah.
Because most of it is in rural areas. We do have some urban cheesemakers, but most of them are in rural areas. So it's really about sustaining those economies and supplying jobs all across the board.
Yeah. And everybody knows rural America has been hollowed out for generations. Yeah. And certainly cheese is not the only thing, but cheese is one of the things that is rebuilding communities and making them proud again.
And it tastes good.
And it tastes great. Yeah, it tastes great.
A lot of people look back into, their families, and whether it's their parents that gave them, good work ethic, or they just did what they loved. Yeah. And encouraged them to follow that path instead of, doing something that they thought they were supposed to do and not be happy. So I think that everybody downstairs, loves what they do. I think that's a real commonality.
Yeah.
And they want to nurture this craft and their creativity and vision. But I think each other, right?
Yeah, and
You inspire me.
it's multiple levels. Like
I keep
that's
hitting
what
you.
that's
Keep
what I
hitting
was
you.
thinking. That's okay. My board colleagues inspire me every day. The cheesemakers that I've talked to at the conference inspire me. I'm inspired by my great-grandfather, who was a cheesemaker in Switzerland generations ago. I'm inspired by farmers, right? A lot of us grew up in the farmers market movement, and this was the late 90s and early aughts, and farmers markets were the place where cheesemakers could take their stuff and actually sell it and get a retail margin, which boy was that fun. And that movement inspired a whole new generation, and then young people inspire me. How can I forget that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there can be some depressing times, and what pulls me out when you start thinking that the world is in a bad place is thinking about all the young people that work for me and where their hearts are and what they want to see in the future. So
And my dad inspires me.
heck yeah. Your dad inspires me.
Yeah. Well, being in the dairy industry, getting back to farming,
Yeah.
and it's a lifelong just lifestyle. And when a next generation comes in, because I know a lot of our community is family businesses, and they are taking on that legacy or that heritage that, they've got to carry that.
Yeah.
And to make a value-added product off the farm, number one, it is making
Hard
that
work.
organization sustainable. It's hard work. It's hard work because if you've got to milk cows and make cheese and sell cheese and market cheese and everything, there's no stopping.
Yeah.
Cows need to be milked every day, and goats and sheep.
Yeah.
But I think that getting back to doing what you love and having something that can surpass through generations is that's what cheese is. Century old essential food. It's like yeast in bread. It's the fermentation of meats, the same thing.
Don't be afraid, right? Enjoy yourself. Ask questions.
Yeah, be curious.
Be curious. Know the numbers, right? I think the thing that is not as often talked about among cheesemakers is, what's your gross margin? What does your cost structure look like? What are your biggest drivers, right? Because that's really important.
Yeah, and today, whether you own a cheese shop or you have a cheese company, culture and the people are what especially in this kind of world of labor shortages and everything. It's creating this family, this team that we're talking about. That it takes all these pieces of a puzzle, a lot, to make a product that is so special.
Yeah.
The other thing that we always talk about is how special the cheese industry is, and people always comment about how tight and collaborative the cheese people are, and it's true. I mean, some of my best friends in the industry are competitors.
Right.
And we pick up the phone and say, hey, off the record. Hey, got this problem? Hey, let's talk about this. And we help each other.
Yeah.
And I think because we're all artisans, we're all in it for the bigger picture. And we want to grow the industry, and there's room for everybody because we all make our product, really true to where we are, who we are as a brand, and as a where we live and regionalities.
I loved all of the awards this morning, but Paula Lambert, who gave advice to Pablo and I early on, she probably doesn't even remember this. She said in her recorded speech, you get what you give. And I just want to encourage all of the people here to consider volunteering. This organization lives and dies off of volunteers, and the committees need you. we need you at events. I mean, we're going to do some really important stuff, and we want your big brains at the table.
Yeah. And the other thing I think that's been resonating, because every corner you turn, you see somebody and you're all excited to see them. And then there's this story we talked about. But when we first started out, we called up a lot of people and said, hey, can we come and see you? We're curious. We don't know about this. We'd love to see your operation. And that has continued. You know, over 2 decades we've been in there, and it's this payback time. And that is I think, a theme with everybody that, and it's just so great to see the next people come through, and we say yes to,
yes to
everybody.
Everything. Yes.
Yeah. And
come and sit and let's eat cheese.
Or pay it forward. I said pay it back. Pay it forward.
Pay it forward, pay it back.
Yeah.
Pay it both ways.
Pay it. Pay it. By the way, donate to the ACE Foundation and scholarships.
Good one.
Think about cheese for a minute. It's a cheese board.
Yeah.
Right? So you want to have different milk types. You want to have different styles of
great?
cheese. And so it's
community right there.
I want to be on the cheese board with your cheesy friends.
Yeah.
Eat more cheese for sure.
Yeah. Eat more cheese and,
tell 2 friends. Because when people start out, they start out with, $20 in their pocket. And we all did that. And we started, and you can start things on a shoestring.
Yes, you can.
So,
hallelujah.
Yes, you can. And there's a lot of good people you can go work for and learn from first. But most of all, just have cheesy fun.
Yeah.